Hi. Can you introduce yourself and just tell us what we're going to be hearing about today?
Sure. My name's Matt Rogers, and I'm Joshua's father, and we are going to talk about Uncle Joe's gravy. Uncle Joe was my brother-in-law, the uncle to our children, and he fought in the 101st Airborne in Iraq, and then had was interesting in hospitality in many different cities around the world. But his signature dish was a gravy that we first discovered at a family Thanksgiving. Uncle Joe died about 10 years ago, and we have Uncle Joe's gravy as a tribute to Uncle Joe every Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Great. How do you make the gravy?
So making Uncle Joe's gravy is a tribute to richness in holiday dishes. So Uncle Joe's gravy, the central element of Uncle Joe's gravy are 3 pounds of cremini mushrooms. That's sort of the main element. But Uncle Joe's gravy starts with a half a pound of bacon. You basically take a half a pound of bacon and you cook it up till it's really quite crispy, and then you put it in a blender along with a pint of heavy whipping cream. And that ends up sort of creating the base. So once you've done that, you then add a stick of butter, and with the stick of butter and the drippings from the bacon, you then take a set of shallots and leeks and cook those up until they're nice and limp and not quite brown. So you sort of get those nice and tasty. And then you add in a whole bunch of the mushrooms, and you let the mushrooms cook down probably for 20 or 30 minutes. So it takes a little bit of time. You have to start it about an hour before you want to eat in order to make sure that it's ready at the right time. So once the mushrooms get a little bit cooked down, you then bring back the cream with the bacon from the blender, mix that in, and then the couple other elements you add are you add in sour cream. A pint of sour cream gives it a little tang of flavor. And then you add in sage, so probably 5 or 6 leaves of sage all diced up end up giving it a wonderful sage taste. You add garlic, probably 3 cloves. We like a lot of garlic, so sometimes we cheat and put 4 cloves in. So you get sage and garlic. And then one of the little tricks that Uncle Joe taught us was to take truffle-infused olive oil and put just a little bit in, maybe a half a tablespoon, maybe just a teaspoon, because that gives it the rich earthiness of the truffle to go with the umami of the mushrooms. It's a wonderful combination. But if you put in too much, it can make it not so good. So we put in the sage, we put in the garlic, put the truffle-infused olive oil in, and that gives it a wonderful richness. And then you can leave that cooking for quite a while in order to really get the fullness of Uncle Joe's gravy.
How would you describe the flavor that Uncle Joe's gravy gives off?
Yeah, so Uncle Joe's gravy is at every meal, at every holiday, the favorite gravy. So there are lots of gravies. Obviously, different people do different gravies, but Uncle Joe's gravy is the favorite gravy, and it's the favorite gravy, I think, because of the richness of the taste. So it's very rich. You end up having all of the cream and butter in there, which is great, but it's offset with this the richness of the umami from the mushrooms, the earthiness from the truffle oil, and then the depth of the sage gives it a really fully rounded flavor that really complements whether it's turkey or roast beef. Everyone is super excited to have Uncle Joe's gravy.
And what is your favorite accompaniment with the gravy?
Well, so one of the cheats about Uncle Joe's gravy is that many people, including my brother, for example, like just to eat Uncle Joe's gravy. They think that they put like potatoes on their plate so that they can get more Uncle Joe's gravy, but all they're really doing is eating Uncle Joe's gravy. Now, the natural accompaniments are mashed potatoes, particularly garlic mashed potatoes that have a lot of butter and cream. About half potato, half garlic and cream goes with really well with the mushrooms that are mostly cream and sage and garlic. So that creates a wonderful package. Many people put it on turkey because it brings a brined turkey out to life, and it gives it a richness and a flavor that sometimes people sort of say white meat and turkey is kind of boring. This makes white meat really exciting, and so lots of people like it that way. And then I have actually seen people take like a basic Hawaiian roll and put Uncle Joe's gravy on the Hawaiian roll. I've seen them put it on the green beans. So they say that then makes it a vegetable. If you eat Uncle Joe's gravy on the green beans, that is a perfect vegetable combination and is one of the favorites, again, at all of the holidays.
Have you changed the recipe any way since you've gotten it?
So we have as many family recipes. We have a 1-page written out Uncle Joe's original recipe that we hold to quite dearly. It's getting kind of stained and beat and over time because we've had it for we've probably had it now for 20 years, and but what we've started to do is try to be slightly more healthy, because this is not exactly what your doctor orders. It's great for holidays, but a little rich. So, for example, we have substituted in, we have some lactose intolerant members of the family, so for them we'll substitute in mocha mix for the cream, and we'll do something like one of the butter substitutes for the butter. And this year we substituted in for the lactose intolerant, we substituted in chèvre, goat cheese, for instead of the sour cream. And I tell you, the goat cheese is a winner. That one we may in fact make and this obviously will require a family conference, because these recipes are highly prized, and changing them requires a full consensus of the family. But the chèvre created the nice sourness that you get from sour cream, but without as much of the richness. And given how rich it is already, that actually turned out to be a really nice balance in what we put together. And a little bit more olive oil, a little less butter is probably a good thing for all of us as we experiment on a forward basis.
How do you think Thanksgiving or the members of our family would react if we didn't have Uncle Joe's gravy at the table during Thanksgiving?
There would be, our family has a tendency to like its traditions to be adhered to without exception and without change. So any change to Uncle Joe's if Uncle Joe's gravy was not on the table, there would be a protest. There might even be a strike. But there would certainly be a strong and quite vocal protest, and some questioning about the parenting abilities of the folks who are putting the food on the table, because we are giving up a tradition. So and particularly my brother Uncle John might not come at all, because that is one of the reasons that he really likes to come to Thanksgiving and to Christmas dinner, is to get Uncle Joe's gravy. So we take any change to Uncle Joe's gravy with a high degree of seriousness and a long family debate. It's almost as long as trying to figure out the rules to touch football at Thanksgiving.
Is there anything else that you'd like to attribute to this recipe?
Well, again, I think of Uncle Joe's gravy as a tribute to Uncle Joe, the late Uncle Joe, and Uncle Joe was one of the had grown up in the South, had gone into the U.S. Army, and again fought in the 101st and jumped out of airplanes and did a lot of really good things for our country. And he had gone and for a while worked in hospitality in London. And one of the things that he brought back from that was actually introducing me to the wines of France, in particular to Bordeaux and to the Medoc region of Bordeaux and the wines that come from there. And so there was again, for a guy coming from not exactly the highest end set of his own family traditions, he brought an elegance to our family that we value quite highly. And again, the recipe, Uncle Joe's Gravy, ends up being a tribute to Uncle Joe. We had his wife, Aunt Laura, with us at Thanksgiving this year, and it was wonderful to be able to make sure that we had Uncle Joe's Gravy as part of that family tradition, because recipes carry with them over time all kinds of stories, right? So you can have Uncle Joe's Gravy and you can tell stories about London, you can tell stories about wine, you can tell stories about sage and garlic and exactly and it echoes back over time, and that's the wonderful thing about these kind of recipes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.